This is the Los Angeles Lakers Report by Chat Sports. Chase Senior here with you. Hope you all had a great weekend. Today's show sponsored by Mint Mobile. Cell phone plans starting as low as $15 per month. Start saving money today by heading to mintmobile.com/chatsports. You see the link at the bottom of your screen. That link available right now in the comment section and the description of this video. We'll tell you more about the cell phone company owned by the famous actor Ryan Reynolds coming up here in just a few moments. We do begin with this. Russell Westbrook did part ways with his agent of 14 years back a couple weeks ago. We discussed it here on the Lakers Report. He has found new representation. According to Adrian Wojnarowski, ESPN, he has signed with agent Jeff Schwartz of Excel Sports for his new representation. That did go down on Monday afternoon just a little while ago. And they have some pretty notable clients. It includes the Joker, Khris Middleton, CJ McCollum, as well as Cade Cunningham. So as Russell Westbrook goes into this final portion of his career in the final year of his contract, as he opted into that player option of $47.1 million, important for him to land a new agency that feels good in representing him so that he tries to set himself up for a new contract following this year. And obviously, he's in a precarious position right now. The play has gone downhill a little bit over the last couple of years, and he is entering the twilight of his career, moved on from his agent of a decade and a half, and now goes to another well-respected agency. Now, we are going to take a look at Russell Westbrook. Is he going to come back? Is he going to go to another team this year? This is the poll question for today's show, so I want to hear from all of you in the comment section right now. He is going to start the season in 2022-2023 with which team? Type L for the Lakers, O for a different team. Let me know right now. I think it's become more and more apparent just because of the Kyrie Irving trade market slowing down and growing stagnant that Russell Westbrook is going to come back and give it another go in Los Angeles. And this big three is interesting for a couple of reasons. They have their weaknesses, and they do have some of their strengths, but the weaknesses and the flaws reared its ugly head last year because it's not a good shooting trio in an era of the NBA in which teams prioritize shooting the basketball. Now, LeBron James still playing at a dominant level. You see the numbers here. 22 field goal attempts per night, still connected on 52% of them, and dialed up a lot of shots from downtown and connected on about 36% of them. For Anthony Davis, disastrous, dismal campaign shooting the basketball, sub 20%. And for Russ, a lot of volume, not a lot of efficiency, nearly 16 field goal attempts per night, shot only 44% from the deck and less than 30% from three. So if this trio comes back, Donvan Ham has his work cut out for him. He's going to have to operate an offensive system that creates and generates a lot of open looks and that caters to the strengths of LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russ, and he has to get Russell Westbrook to buy in to not being the dominant player that he was in his prime, and he has to tinker with his role a little bit. Now, does Russ have the ability to check his ego at the door, knowing that if he changes his style, it could benefit the Lakers in winning basketball games? He hasn't shown that throughout his career. If he's able to make that necessary switch, then he might become a more valuable player this year than he was last year in his debut season with the hometown squad. Now, if he does stay, a couple of things that I want to see from Russell Westbrook. Limit the forced jump shots. He just chucks up some ill-advised, maddening opportunities sometimes, and you're like, yo, 22 seconds left on the shot clock. What are you doing? And then the ball goes the other way, leads to an easy basket. So Russ just has to be smarter on the offensive end. I also want to see him become a better off-ball player. If the rumors are true that Frank Vogel approached Russ and said, hey, we want you to play a little bit more off-ball, and Russ said, no, Frank, I am a point guard. You're not going to change my position. That's a problem. Can Donvan Ham get in his ear and say, yeah, you know, Russ, you're going into the backstage of your career. You have to start to adjust, adapt, and evolve. And those three things, something that Russ has never shown the willingness to do, and he's never shown the ability to make those necessary changes. And then lastly, more effort on defense. How many times have we seen those shacked in a fool-like clips for Russ where he gets put in a turnstile, he gets lost defensively, and he is just a liability out there because he gets lost on a switch. He can't find his man on a pick and roll. There's a backdoor screen or a screen around the three-point perimeter, and Russ has just no interest and no effort level in trying to track those offensive players down. He has the athleticism. He has the strength. He has the ability to be a better defensive player. It just all comes down to effort and overall basketball IQ on the defensive end of the floor. Now, I did say earlier that Mint Mobile is today's presenting sponsor, and they are legitimately changing the cell phone game, just like LeBron James changed the game of basketball in the early 2000s. And back then, cell phone plans, a lot more affordable than they are today, but Mint Mobile, the exception. Plans starting as low as $15 a month on America's largest 5G network. The versatility to Mint Mobile, it's like what Anthony Davis can do on both ends of the floor. Unlimited talk and text, high-speed data, a mobile hotspot. Your parents are going to be hitting you up saying, why are you contacting me so much? They did that with me, and I told my stepdad, I told my pops, I said, hey, I just have unlimited talk and text. My stepmom was wondering as well because she was like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a little while. Now that I made the switch to Mint Mobile, unlimited talk and text, I can hit them up as much as possible. MintMobile.com/chatsports. I'll put that link in the comment section and the description of this video. Now we shift gears to some Lakers trade rumors. Marc Stein with this, that the Lakers could pursue Julius Randle if the Knicks end up acquiring Donvan Mitchell. Now, that trade market for D-Mitch, it's a little bit dead right now. Shams Charania saying that trade talks have stalled out between the Jazz and the Knicks, and we kind of predicted this because this point of the offseason, the first normal offseason on the NBA calendar in a couple of years because of COVID, players, executives, front office members, organizations as a whole, they're taking vacations. They're going international. They are taking a breather and a break from basketball because it's the first break they've been able to have in a little while away from the game because this is the first time we've had a somewhat normal offseason in a couple of calendar years. So these trade talks, they've gone silent, and they've grown silent because of those reasons that I just talked about. As for Julius Randle, last year, it was bad juju. The year before that, good juju. And we tend to forget that 2 years ago, he was an All-NBA player. And following the All-Star break, he was a legitimate MVP candidate. I don't think he's that consistently. I think he maxed out on a team that was a 4 seed in the Eastern Conference and exceeded expectations, the classic Tibbs year one overachievers. But there's no question that Julius Randle is a pretty solid player. During a down year last year, he still averaged 20 points per game, 10 rebounds, and how he's been able to grow his offensive arsenal over time is pretty impressive. Goes to show you that he's worked diligently on his craft, and he's gotten into the lab to make some of the adjustments to turn him into a better and more well-rounded player. And if you get a guy who's averaging around 20 points per game and 10 boards, and you're only paying him $23+ million, 25 and a half, 27 and a half the year after that, then that player option for 2025, 2026 at sub 30 mil, it's pretty good value. And we freak out all the time over these contracts, but in reality, 20 and 10, it's pretty good market rate right here for what you'd be getting from Julius Randle. Also on top of the fact that the market continues to rise, these contracts are going to continue to increase as well, and the salary cap is also going to continue to blossom. Then he becomes that unrestricted free agent, 32 years old. But really, if you're the Lakers and you're trading for Julius Randle, you pivot Anthony Davis to the 5, Julius Randle to the 4, and it makes the roster and the starting 5 a little bit better, and that closing 5 a little bit more legitimate as well. And really, you're not worried about the back half of that contract. You're trying to maximize this team in this window that we're currently living in, with LeBron James set to turn 38 years old in December and Anthony Davis still in his prime. And if you hold on to Russell Westbrook, he might be a part of that trade. But let's just say, in this reality, Russell Westbrook is on this team. You got to try to maximize the title contention window that is in front of you right now. Now, who do you think is better between both of these players? Because it could be a swap. And I'm not saying that Russ will play for the Knicks. They might just buy him out, but he might be included in this potential trade. W for Russell Westbrook, R for Julius Randle. Get that comment section popping and voice your opinions. And if a trade does happen, yeah, we're going to let you know. We're going to chop it up, and we're going to give you the best analysis. And we're closing in on a pretty monster milestone here on the Lakers Report by Chat Sports. More than 1,600 people away from 50,000 subs. We're going to think of something that we're going to do to celebrate very briefly because we're going to continue to keep it humming. But we get to that 50K mark, it's only right that we celebrate with all of Laker Nation. So help us get there. Support the channel, youtube.com/LakersTV, or just hit that red subscribe button down below. Rob Pelinka, is his seat hot going into this year? I make the argument, yes. And the Silver Screen and Roll, the blog, also thinks that it's now or never for Rob Pelinka. Here's what they had to say about his job status going into a critical year for the purple and gold. It's now or never for Pelinka to save his job by reopening the Lakers title window that he played a huge part in closing in the first place. To do that, needs to resolve the Lakers' worst trade transaction in franchise history and secure LeBron James' commitment while he's at it. Next few weeks will determine if the general manager has learned a thing or two from his past, or if he's willing to repeat the same mistakes he's already made, dooming the Lakers and his future with them. And I think that Nicole made some good points during her blog post. The Lakers won the championship in 2020. We're not far removed from that. And already, they have gone downhill in a pretty quick fashion. And over the last decade, only a couple of playoff appearances. And for a team that is aggressive in investing, in trying to win titles, that has 17 championships, and this franchise's illustrious history, it's not good enough when you have an awful campaign like they had last year. And Rob Pelinka, partially, has put this organization in this spot. Now, the fact that they operate like a family and they bring in ex-Lakers and they seek out advice from Phil Jackson, who hasn't been around a basketball organization in a really long time, and they have this like familial feel, I don't think that's a good way to operate a business. But Rob Pelinka has also played a part in the Lakers' downfall, and the LeBron James contract extension does loom large for this team, and the Clutch Sports camp hasn't given any indications that LeBron is willing to sign a long-term deal, and it comes down to the Lakers having success. If LeBron James looks at this organization and sees dysfunction written all over it, then he's not going to want to return. He's going to want to round out his NBA career. Right now, deadlock with Steph Curry with 4 championships to try to get more hardware to be deemed and considered one of the best players of all time in the history of the NBA. And with LeBron, you never know what he's thinking. And you don't know what his future plans are. Of course, he has business ties in Hollywood because he's really done a good job of involving himself and flourishing in the creative, film and entertainment, pop cultural and multimedia space. But it's not like you can't go to a different organization and still have those business ties in the area and still own your property in the Los Angeles area. Of course, his son going to play a big role in what LeBron James does next as well. Now, how hot do you think Pelinka's seat is? That's our last question for you after we hop on out of here. Scale it for me from 1 to 10 in the comment section. Don't forget to start saving money with Mint Mobile, and of course, subscribe to the channel and be on the lookout for the best Lakers coverage here on YouTube.